Hello, 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 everyone. I am David Farrell, your host for Cafecito with Realtor Davey. I am super excited to share my very first episode with one of my really good friends. Barbara Hernandez has been an activist for our community, someone who I consider a servant leader, a true servant leader within our community. So tell us a little bit about who you are, what got you involved, what inspired you to take the career path that you're in right now?
Honestly, it's a little bit of a crazy story because it happened so fast, and then thinking back to it and then looking at my life now, it's like, oh, like it all worked out. But I mean, my life started, I was born and raised here in Aurora, and I was able to, I was pretty much born on the east side. Went to Dietrich Elementary School, went to Waldo Middle School, went to East Aurora, and then went to Wannsee Community College and transferred to Aurora University. So I stayed around in the area as much as possible, but honestly what got me involved in politics was my family. And I think that's something that we can all say, it's our family that started our journey, our careers, our passion. My family was undocumented. They came to this country back in 1992 in Memorial Day. They didn't know it was Memorial Day.
Stop it.
Yeah, they didn't know it was a Memorial Day. They got into a taxi, and my dad was like, why is there like no cars in the road? This is like really nice. This is great.
No traffic, no Chicago traffic.
Yeah. And the taxi guy was like, well, it's because it's Memorial Day. It's like, it's a big holiday for us. It's like, oh, okay. So they came here legally, plane, everything, and then my mom was 6 months pregnant with me during that time frame.
Wow.
Yeah. They overstayed their welcome after their visa expired for 6 months. That's how they became undocumented for the next 21 years of our lives, of my brother and my life. And just going through that with my family was a lot. It was an emotional toll, mental toll as well, because
right.
My family early on was like, don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone that we're undocumented.
Right, because we're not supposed to exist.
Right.
We're not visible.
And
we can't be here.
This was 30 years ago. So
yeah.
Of course, a lot of things have changed from then to now. Back in the day, it was like, don't talk about it. You never know who you can trust. Someone's gonna tell ICE we're gonna be deported. You're gonna be here because I was born here, so they couldn't transport me or deport me either.
Right.
So my parents were like, don't say anything. So I was like, okay, going to school, like, don't say anything, don't tell anyone. And that's where the emotional toll would come in, because I mean, a young individual gonna be telling people like, hey, don't tell anyone. And then your friends, your elementary school friends, like, oh, I'm going to Mexico for Christmas.
Talking about their experience and what they're doing.
Like, when are you going? I'm like, part of me is like, how can I answer that? And sometimes I would be like, oh, I can't, we're not going. Or sometimes I got to the point that I'm like, I'm just gonna lie. Oh yeah, we're going to Mexico too this Christmas.
Yeah.
And it's like deep down, like I know it's
not.
And I've never met my cousins, never met my aunts during this time. Like my grandfather, my grandmother, from the whole family, I didn't know them. I didn't grow up with them. I didn't have the luxury to cross the street and go see a cousin.
Yeah.
Or go see an aunt, or go to like parties at all.
Yeah.
With family. I never had that luxury. So that was an emotional toll of like, I was always alone, because in this, state and this country overall, we're still only like 4 members of my family. It's my dad, my mom, and my brother, and myself. That's it.
Right.
And everybody else is in Mexico. So along the ways, I also saw a lot of political stuff that was going on, people saying, undocumented immigrants or illegal aliens are not supposed to be in this country. They're taking away our jobs. They don't pay taxes, and I would always yell at the TV. I was like, "Yes, my parents do pay taxes.
We do. We work hard.
Like, we do pay taxes. My parents always pay taxes, and like they're not taking anyone's job. Like they got this job, and so on." And so I was always fighting, and I got very frustrated one day. I was like, you know what, I'm going to try and get involved, help people. I went to Washington, D.C. to protest. I would protest around this area against people that were going against immigrants. eventually I noticed that there was a health issue as well. Along with it, it's just not the documentation. It was also like, hey, like healthcare, where do you get healthcare?
Right.
And that's something that I saw with my dad. Like he had to, for a life insurance policy, he had to get a test to make sure he was like healthy enough and put a price point to that. And someone would have to go to the house and so on. But I mean, luckily he was healthy, but that's because he was trying to take care of himself. But other than that, like there was no way of going to a doctor and not getting worried that the doctor's gonna rip you off, or tell you something else completely different from your health experts and so on. So that's what got me involved. And then I noticed there was more things, of course, that was only for immigrants. It was also for everyone. Education. Like I went through, I was first in my family to go to college. So I had to figure out how to apply for scholarships, how to get into college, what a student loan is. So all of that I had to do, and I was like, well, this is hard. Like I'm still navigating that. Like with this whole student loan stuff, I'm still navigating that. And that's something I tried to make easier for other people after me and so on. And that's something that stuck with me. Eventually I did live in Chapala when I was like 15, 16 years old.
Yeah.
Accidentally, I was just registering people to go. I was told, hey, do you want to go to the meeting with a state representative? I didn't know who a state representative was. Like, I knew it sounded fancy title. I was like, okay.
You must be someone.
Right. Like, it must be someone important. Like, I'm in a hoodie. Like, sure, let's go. I went to the meeting and they talked about the whole like voter registration, how that was going and things like that. And then she looked at me and was like, hey, what's your plan? What are your plans to do? Like, what's your story? And I was like, well, I'm a high schooler. I want to go for pastry chef. And
I remember that. Did you do the pastries program or like the baking program at East?
Yes, I did.
I remember that.
Yeah, I did. I went through all food service because that was my passion. I wanted to do culinary and pastries. And then I met her. And my dad was always telling me, like, behind the scenes, like, I see you as a leader. And I'm like, yeah, Dad, whatever. You know, teenagers, like, yeah, Dad, whatever. No, it's not going to happen. But then when I went to the meeting, she was like, no offense. And I was like, okay. It's like, but I don't know you well, but I don't see that. Like, I don't see pastry chef in your world. Like, I see a leader. And I was like, here we go again. Like, someone else is saying this. Like, I don't understand. So I was like, okay, sure. After a while, she's like, keep in touch with me. I would send her random emails here and there once in a while. I was like, hey, I'm doing good. How's everything?
Yeah.
I'm a junior now, and I'm doing this and X, Y, and Z. And eventually I told her, like, hey, like, I started thinking, it was my senior year in high school, 2 weeks before graduation. I was like, okay, I don't feel this anymore. Like, I still love cooking. I still love eating. I still love making pastries, eating pastries, but I don't think this is a career for me.
Right.
And I was like, okay, she mentioned that I can come to her and talk to her if I'm having doubts. I'm like, okay, let's go. So I set up a meeting. I went to a meeting with her. It's like, hey, I want to learn more. Like, what do you mean, a leader? And she's like, well, you can do political science.
Right.
You can do, this is like politics and so on. And I was like, okay, well, let's figure this out. Like, let's do this. And eventually she canceled all her meetings that day.
And then?
And took me to Avanzi Community College in Sugar Grove. We met with a admissions counselor. And the admission counselor went through everything with me. I was like, okay, like, this is what you need to do for political science. We do have a program here. And that same day, I walked out of Avanzi as a political science student.
You registered.
I registered that day.
Completely changed your career path and decided to go into what people saw in you.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to unpack there. And I want to go back from the beginning because your story, again, reflects on so many people. I can relate to you on so many levels, going from the time that your parents came here to really trying to identify who you are. Because when we are told as little kids, like, you can't do that,
right,
it's natural to question, but why? Why can't I say this? Or why can't I do this? Why can't I like tell my friends that like this is our situation? Because that really does create that division within yourself of, am I doing something wrong? Or is who I am not acceptable by society? And you really have to fight for who you are and identify that, and really then ground yourself into what perhaps Linda and your dad saw early on in those years, and be like, this is who you are. We know it because we see it within you. And just like you, I owe a lot of who I am to some mentors that, you know, I've always remembered Mr. Muhammad when I was in high school. And he would always tell us at Boys to Men, always be the best you can be, because you never know who's watching, ever. And so with that, I always try to like, okay, just put your best face forward. It doesn't matter what kind of day you're having. It doesn't matter like, you know, what limitations society has put on us. It's up to us to break those. That is a really powerful story. And I'm glad that now you're doing everything that allows you to touch other people's lives, to not just motivate them and inspire them, but like you said, you're paying it forward. Speaking of paying it forward, what do you love most about your job? Because you have such a powerful position to be able to impact other people's lives with what you do.
Oh, those are, as you're saying that and asking me, I was like, all these like images of like emotionalness of everything, because what I love is helping others, of course, seeing the change that is happening for a positive. And when people come up to me and say, hey, thank you so much, this helped me, X, Y, and Z, it's like, that's great. Like you feel that. When little kids come to you and they know who you are and they get nervous around you and they're like, thank you for doing this. Like, my parents were able to get this. And it's like, that's great.
That's awesome. So talking about culture and talking about your experience with family, now going through what you've gone through, your struggles, how have you seen, or what changes have you seen? I think that we are a reflection of our family, right? If I could describe like us as people, like I'm a plant guy. I've grown to love plants and everything. I was like, if I could be a tree, this is like, you know, and so you see yourself through the environment, like everything that's changing around you, right? And I think that growing up, not just physically, emotionally, mentally, in every way, also kind of pushes the boundaries with the people around you, and it helps them grow. Yeah. What are some of the bigger like changes that you've seen your family go through, that you like when you came to this country, or you're growing up, right? Because we talked a little bit about you being a girl, or like as a little girl, and your family telling you like, don't do this, or like hush hush, or this, right? But now, how have you seen where you're at now change the point of view from your family?
I think it changed a lot from every angle. And my parents were always strict.
Yeah.
They were like the parents that...
Te quiero aquí a las 10.
Yes. Like, where are you? Or like, to the point that it was, growing up, it was a little embarrassing. Because in high school, like we lived just a couple blocks from the high school. So all the way from freshman year to senior year.
Yeah.
My mom would go with me, like walk me to the high school and leave me at the door.
Girl, because you were gonna like go somewhere else.
Yes, that is exactly what my mom would say. But I was that student that I would always have my mom take me to the door. Okay. And of course, teenagers would see that, guys would see that, and they would be like, does your mom walk you all the time? Well, every single day? And it's like, yeah, she does. And like, yes. And it's like, oh, okay. Don't you hate that? I was like, yeah, but I know she cares. Yeah. Or in middle school, my dad randomly would show up in middle school. Like I was doing homework, whatever, tests, and it was like normal school. We would get on the door, knock on the door. Teacher would be like, hey, there's a parent here for X, Y, and Z. They just want to chaperone today.
Stop, your dad would show up. Oh my God, I would die.
My dad would show up and sit all the way in the back and listen to like school conversations and see how I am as a student. Yeah. And just keeping an eye on everything. And so it got to that point. It was strict. Like, I appreciate that now, but in middle school, I was just like, Dad, like, nobody wants to talk to me because
of
you're
you.
Right here. You're right here behind me. It's like, no one wants to talk to me. Or the teacher would pick on me more. I was like, oh, Barbara, what's capital of X, Y, and Z?
Y tu papá super proud right there.
And I was like, I'm not ready for this. I did not study for this. And it was just like, oh, okay, well, I had to do a better job. So it got to that point. And even in college, like, my mom would take me to college, like in Wabansi for my first year. And then afterwards, like, okay, you can borrow the car, go to college, come back, and so on. And I was like, okay. So slowly I gained their trust. And eventually with this job, I really had to sit down with them.
Oh, yeah.
And be like, hey, like, this is what is expected by me and my community. I know that in your eyes, parents, I will always be this 10-year-old girl. 10 p.m. here. 10 p.m. However, like, I am doing something else that not a lot of people are doing at my age.
Yeah.
So I need you to be more flexible with me when it comes to, like, going to meetings or not being home or, like, having to travel to Springfield and stay there for 3 or 4 nights.
Yeah.
Because it's part of my career. Like, don't expect me to call you every so often or text you that I'm okay. It's going to happen when I can, but I can't be, like, an hour check-in or anything. Like, so I really had to sit down with them and say that. And I know, I mean, I got in a lot of arguments with them growing up because it's like,
yeah.
Mi casa, this is my rules in my house. And I get it, I do. And I know, like I said, they did mean well, but I was also the oldest one, the female.
I always tell people,
mujer.
Parents, Latino parents, especially you all learn how to be parents with us. Like, literally, why are you so strict with the oldest?
Yeah, and my brother, he's a male, and he's 25.
Y lo dejan hacer todo.
Yeah, whatever he wants. And luckily, he's a nerd, so he stays in his computer. He doesn't really go out. But I mean, my dad is actually telling him, like, you should go out. Go with friends. Go out.
See?
With me, he's like,
I
should stay home.
I wish.
You've been out too long. You should stay home one day. Yeah.
Are they better now?
They're better now. So my mom's still because of everything that happened to me. I mean,
Te cuida.
Yeah, now they're going back to it a little bit. It's like, well, I can't stay if you're not home. Like, what happens if you're in the hospital again and we don't know? It's like, I get that, but, like, trust me, like, if you are in the hospital, I will let you know.
Yeah.
And if I'm able to, like, I'm like, you'll be the first one to know, and that's why I try to talk to them. Like, I did buy a place just a year ago.
Congrats.
Thank you. But right now I'm still living with them.
Yeah.
Because of this whole, like, other things too. My place had to be remodeled because whole different story. But I had to go, like, I had to stay with my family again because of everything. Like, they had to take care of me. They had to, and maybe, like you said, maybe it was meant to be for now. Like, things happen for a reason. Maybe I wasn't ready to leave the nest just yet. I thought I was because I felt like society pressures. I mean, as elected official, people were telling me, like, oh, she still lives with her parents. She lives with her parents, and I'm, like, trying to explain to a lot of people, like, this is a cultural thing.
Yeah.
Like, we don't leave the parents until we get married. Like, it's rare when someone leaves the home.
Yeah.
Before that, it's maybe because they don't have a great relationship, or it's a different cultural background. Might be second, third generation. However, I'm first generation, so it was an expectation that I should stay home until I'm married. But I left because I felt like I needed some time to, do my own thing and so on. But it's something that my parents are still adjusting to, of course. Yeah. But overall, I think the Latino community and my parents are learning a little bit slowly in certain things, but my dad is being open-minded. Thankfully, my mom has been open-minded and trying to understand a little bit more. And this career really had to push them.
Yeah.
Push them to do a lot more because when I'm in dinner and it's like I get the call from a governor or the speaker, it's like, sorry. Like, I have to leave the table. I'm sorry. Like, the governor is calling mom. And I'm like, I don't care if the governor's calling, the president's calling.
I know. She's like, tienes que comer.
Yeah, so like, I will, but the governor's calling.
Yeah.
And things like that. It still happens, of course. But, I mean, it's great to be able to do that and be able to have that family and also, like, have those moments of like, okay, I think I made it. It's like, and tell my mom like, oh, the governor says hi, Mom. Like,
No, that's amazing.
Like, oh. It's like, oh, great.
I'm sure they're really proud of you.
Yeah.
You know, I think that you've done such an amazing job with all the work that has gotten you to this point. And like I said, I personally, like, I admire you a lot. You've done so much for everyone else. And when you selflessly do things for other people, it comes back. It truly does. As I mentioned when we first started this, like, we volunteer for the Aurora Hispanic Heritage Board, which is a community-based organization. And you've been involved in so many other things. What would you say, or how would you encourage people to get involved? What are some ways that we can get involved to support you, support the community, support our families?
Right. I would say there's different types of getting involved. Like, you don't have to get involved politically. If you don't like politics and you're like, that's it, I don't want to get involved in politics, like, at least vote. It doesn't matter who you vote for. I mean, it does, but like,
vote for Barbara. What do you mean it doesn't?
It does and it doesn't. Like, I'm not gonna say like vote for me. Like,
I will vote for Barbara.
But like, you know, if what you said, it was right. I mean, there's many things going on in the community, and whoever you put in, like, maybe it's not the same viewpoints you see. So it does matter in that way. And of course, and especially local politics. Local politics are very complicated, but very, very local, and just overall, it impacts your life a lot more. You can see it happen. So, in the way you can get involved is, of course, whatever party you belong to, they have monthly meetings. You can get involved in that way. Become a precinct committeeman in your neighborhood to allow you to, if there is a vacancy of some sort in your community, you get to appoint someone. And that's how I got appointed, because there was a vacancy. Linda left for Veterans Affairs, and there was a vacancy, so a group of people in my community had to appoint me to be their candidate and be in there. And there wasn't a special election. It wasn't like that. It was by a small group of people that appointed me to that seat. And then in 2020, I had to run. Yeah. And that's when everybody in the district had to like have a say. So that's one way. If you do want to get politically involved, getting into organizations and things like that, volunteering. If you just want to help people overall, I mean, volunteering, like the Hispanic Heritage Board, there's like Feed My Starving Children. There's recycling events that people can help out. There's a lot of different things. And like I said, that's not political. Yeah. Although I think everything is political. But someone had to set those rules here and there. But I mean, those are things that you can do for fun and get involved, get to know the community. And slowly you will possibly walk towards the political side of things. And you can start saying like, or even emailing me, like, say, like, Representative Hernandez, I'm against this bill that will feed dogs cat food. I don't know. Something. Like, you just type something and tell me, hey, I'm against this bill, or I'm for this bill. Yeah. And I will read it and respond and say, you know, thank you for your thoughts. Thank you for your opinion. I will look more into it. If it's a topic that I don't know and I need to read more, or if it's something that I know for sure I'm going to support, like, hey, yeah, like, by the way, FYI, I am going to support this. Like, I agree with you 100%. I agree that we should do this and X, Y, and Z. But that's a different way of getting involved, like messaging me, letting me know what's going on.
How can people message you? I know you make yourself very available. So how can people that are listening message you?
I'm all over. So social media, of course, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Nextdoor, a little bit of everything. Email, repbarbahernandez@gmail.com. My office, 630-270-1848.